Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 0602 American News for You. Your host, Heaven, has returned with some exciting content. In January 2025, President Biden declared that the Equal Rights Amendment, first proposed more than a century ago, should now be considered as the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. This declaration was met with both praise and backlash, and definitely some confusion on whether the president could make a claim on a ratification that has long expired by legal terms. Regardless, this event has reignited a long-standing debate. Should gender equality be constitutionally guaranteed? Um, Today, our guest will revisit this historic debate by drawing some inferences from American political thinkers. To explore both sides of the divide, we will first turn to our liberal correspondent. Okay, thank you to the host for that awesome introduction. I'm here in New York City, as you can see by the live audience and by my latte. So the Equal Rights Amendment was designed to ensure that equality of rights under the law shall not be denied on account of sex. Supporters of the ERA argue that this is not a radical change, but a necessary affirmation of values that we've long claimed to uphold. Two female thinkers, Victoria Woodhull and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, offer compelling arguments in favor of such a constitutional amendment by virtue of their statements on what gives women the right to vote and to exist in political spheres. In her speech on constitutional equality, Woodhull argued that women already possess political rights and that their exclusion is an act of injustice. I am, equally with men, possessed of the right to vote, she says, and she also states that neither upon general principles nor by special provision of the Constitution can I perceive that men have any right to deny it to us. So for her, the denial of suffrage to women was not a failure of political progress, but simply a breach of constitutional promise. Stanton was even more direct. In her address to the New York State Legislature, she compared the condition of women to that of slaves, stating, Mrs. Roe has no right to her children, Mrs. Roe has no legal existence, and she has not the best right to her own person. Her scathing indictment of existing laws called out the injustice in poetic and legal terms. Strike the words white male from all of your constitutions. We should all prosper or perish together under equal application of rights, essentially. So, for both Woodhull and Stanton, the ERA really wouldn't be creating new rights. It would simply be inscribing rights that women were always morally and legally entitled to. They did not plead for any special treatment, as some will claim. They demanded equality, simply, and they would argue that, yes, although they already held the right, it was denied to women for so long that it's only logical that an amendment should be included to remove any standing that could stop the protection of women's rights ever again. I'll turn it over. Hey, here from the farm. So really, the push for an equal rights amendment may seem like on its face like a natural extension of democratic values, but conservative thinkers from our past, like Brownson and Upshur, warn us that applying abstract notions of equality too broadly risks undermining the very structure of society. Brownson and The Woman Question argues that suffrage is not a natural right, but a trust from civil society. Since civil society never conferred that trust on women, he claims that they deprive no right of not being enfranchised. His greatest fear is that enfranchising women would dismantle the family or the social unit, and it will replace domestic harmony with political rivalry. So he writes that give women the right to vote, the political right to vote, and be voted for, and what remains of the family union will soon be dissolved. So from his view, the ERA wouldn't promote equality. Giving women the same position as men would destroy society and weaken family bonds. And really, how could children have equal rights when they don't have a nourishing parent based in the home, but rather someone who's like pursuing an increasing standing out in the world? In a treatise on domestic economy, Beecher writes that while woman has an equal interest in all social and civil concerns, her interest should be entrusted to the other sex without her taking any part in voting or in making and administering laws. Beecher believes that this is in the woman's best interest to take a domestic role where they can flourish and lead their family in religion and morals. Women have a special role and not a less important one in the home. In relation to the ERA, Beecher has directly written, by thus attempting to make one sex equal to the other, both are degraded. Rather than force women into male political spheres, Americans should instead raise women morally and intellectually to the level of a man, but without giving them the public duties. For her, the ERA risks removing women from where they really belong, which is in the socially inferior but intellectually powerful role within the home, and then forcing them into roles that strip them of their domestic influence. So by treating women's interests as like identical to men's, the amendment overlooks the very real ways that property, duty, and social order uh, uniquely define civic responsibility for each gender. So, and also, in fact, like what people don't consider that the ERA would do is, like as Phyllis Schlafly might describe it, is to take away many of the rights that women have been inherently granted because of the gentler role that they play in society. The liberal perspective is too focused on increasing the negative liberties that the amendment might offer, but in reality, this amendment would also remove positive liberties in a way that they would not appreciate, such as like no more government intervention to give a woman extended maternity leaves and college opportunity scholarships. Thank you all so much for listening as we consider the Equal Rights Amendment from both sides, two unique visions of American democracy. On one end, we heard the call for inclusion and equal recognition that's explicitly defined under the law. This can be interpreted by the spirit of ideas presented by Woodhull and Stanton. And on the other consideration that uses Brownson and Upshur, we can see a defense of social order, the rights of the majority, which are, I guess, men in this case, depending on how you look at it, and the idea that rights are embedded in inference rather than definitive statement, and to the approach to this issue from a legal standpoint that would really only serve to take away the advantages that women already have. I guess it's up to you to decide, but thank you for joining us.